and welcome to Pale Blue Pod, the astronomy podcast for people who are overwhelmed by the universe but still want to be its friend. I'm your host, Dr. Moiya McTier. I'm an astrophysicist, a folklorist, and a friend to the universe. And today I'm joined by Tribble. Tribble is a podcast producer, a radio host, a writer, and a comedian. And she brought me to this really cozy spot. Tribble, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Would you like to tell the audience where we're recording?
Yes, we are recording in a cozy Korean spa in a warm pool where you do have to be butt naked. So, this is the first time I've recorded a Pale Blue Pod episode naked, but maybe not the last. We'll see. It's going to be a learning curve. For me, at least. Have you recorded any podcasts naked? You know what? I haven't. And now I think I want to make it a regular thing, you know?
Yeah, so relaxing.
Be at my most vulnerable.
It really ups the vulnerability.
Yes, exactly. When you see how big my areolas are, you know, you can't help but to be vulnerable once you've witnessed that,
It's very true. Speaking of vulnerability, I can't complete this episode without asking, have you seen that Star Trek episode? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And do people ask you this all the time? Okay.
Yes, people do ask me this all the time, and I tell them that my dad actually wrote that episode, which he did not. But it's a fun game that I play with people who are very gullible and into Star Trek.
Oh, that's me twice. I am very gullible and into Star Trek, so you got me. I would have really just ran with that information.
Yeah, most people do. They love it. This year I ordered a Star Trek plushie because I had an older comedian who was very excited about the possibility of me writing an entire comedy set based on Trouble with Tribbles, that Star Trek episode. So I ordered the plushie for inspiration.
Good.
It does scare me from time to time.
Yeah, it's just like a fuzzy little thing. You catch it out of the corner of your eye.
Yeah. I should have brought it with me. I wasn't thinking about that, but
I'll fill it in with my imagination. Don't you worry. Okay, well, today we're talking about the Apollo program. So we're also going back into history. This is something that you asked to talk about. What was it about the Apollo program that caught your eye?
Several things. I love history. And so going back in time and talking about the history surrounding the Apollo program sounds fun to me. And also, Neil Armstrong is from Ohio, which I am as well, which I reluctantly admit, depending on what's going on in the world. But right now, with all of the Springfield news and the people in Springfield showing up as the opposite of what people think Ohioans actually are, I'm proud to say that I'm from Ohio, just like the late great Neil Armstrong.
Yes. As a Western Pennsylvanian, I get it.
Yeah.
We have to stick together on that border.
Exactly.
Okay, I get the appeal. Well, we are going to dig into the history for sure. Okay. There is a lot of cool information about the name of the program and the different iterations that they had to do. But first, so that I and the listeners can get to know you a little better, and so we can place you in the proper departments and classes here at Pale Blue Podiversity, I have a get-to-know-you questionnaire, a little get-to-know-you exam, if you will. There are 9 questions, and there are no wrong answers.
Okay, that's good, because I hate school and tests.
Yes. You and so many people who were not me, because I'm a big old fucking nerd.
Yeah, doctor.
Doctor, yeah.
That's Latin for nerd.
Yeah, I was in school for 22 years.
Oh, my God. I thought you were only 22 years old, to be honest. You look so young, girl. You look good.
It's the collagen. Thank you. I was influenced on TikTok. But it's working. My joints don't creak anymore. It's amazing.
Oh, my gosh.
The first question on this questionnaire is, what's your current relationship status with the universe?
The universe tells me everything about everything in my life. You know, astrology informs who I should be in relationships with my mood for the day.
Yeah.
What I'm doing with my life at any given moment, it's all informed by the universe.
Are you reading your horoscope every day, or do you know your chart so well that you can like anticipate how you're going to react to what the universe throws at you?
All of it. I mean, I'm reading my
Nice.
horoscope daily. I'm listening to a monthly rundown on a podcast. I'm getting astrology readings. All of the things. I'm on CoStar 6-7 times a day.
Okay. I was going to
Checking.
ask where you get the horoscope, because I feel like there are definitely better and worse places.
A really good one that I was not anticipating being good is Refinery 29. They put out a daily horoscope for each sign, and it's always on point. And of course, Channing Nicholas, you can't be a hardcore queer astrology freak unless you follow Channing Nicholas and get all of your information from her.
Okay, noted. I know very little about astrology, but that does take us to our next question, and I feel like I know the answer. Do you feel like your sun sign fits you well?
Absolutely. I'm a Leo.
Okay.
And I walk into a room and people know immediately. I think that a telltale sign is my hair, for one. Leos, we are a hair people.
Oh, this is news to me. I love this.
Yes, Leos, we're a hair people. So our hair is always going to be a statement. And I think that Leos get a bad rep for being self-centered. We're actually magnetic. We attract a lot of attention, but we also give a lot of attention. And I am a through and through extrovert. I love being around people. I love making people laugh and feel good. And whenever I'm around a lot of people, it makes me feel like I'm on drugs. So yes, I am
True
a
empath.
Leo. Yes.
Wow. I love a Leo. The previous co-host of this show was a Leo, so that's a good pairing. Well, I don't know. Is Leo and Capricorn a good pairing?
I think Leo in every sign is a good pairing. Leo is pretty much the sign that everybody gets along with. Now, when it comes to like your ethos for life, I don't think Capricorn and Leo are great. Leo in any earth sign isn't really going to be a super great pairing because Leos thrive off of leisure, whereas Capricorn is kind of a workaholic sign, very serious, very dedicated. And Leos, we are very loyal, but loyal to work, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Understood. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, loyal to work, no. But are you perhaps loyal to any particular equation? Do you have a favorite equation?
I do have a favorite equation, and it is the quadratic equation. And why it is my favorite equation is because I went through middle school, high school, college, and I have no idea what it is. I know that it is a thing, and I know that it does something. I don't know what it does. I didn't know when I was taking those math classes, and I don't know now. And that makes it my favorite because I'm like, how? There were so many tests. There's a song that we had to memorize to memorize the quadratic equation. It seems, I know in my head that it was super important for my education, but I never committed it to memory. And I feel like that in itself is amazing.
Yeah, it is. A little secret, I don't know it either.
Great.
I know there's a 4 and there's like an AC in there somewhere. I know it's a fraction, that it's like you're dividing one thing by another. I loved like splitting up the squared equations and finding like the square root of a long polynomial, but I never did it with the formula. I always just like, there's like a superpower.
Oh, wow.
I just looked at it and I just knew what the roots were.
Oh, wow. You said polynomial, and I'm like, that's a word. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, an equation or formula that has exponents in it.
Okay, we learn.
Yeah, so if you have like an x squared plus x plus 5, polynomial.
Okay, I got that. Wow. I wasn't ever particularly bad at math. I'm daily math, everyday math. I can do that pretty well. I know how to do things, but quadratic equation, math terms, not my thing, you know?
Okay.
Not in my
Well,
head
you do
anymore.
have a favorite. That's beautiful.
Yes, yes.
I don't want to know your favorite for this next question, but I would like to know, what do you think is the best planet?
I think the best planet is Mars. Cannot support life, which is probably the smartest thing a planet could do, human life. And I often dream of certain billionaires on Earth trying to colonize Mars and meeting their demise immediately.
Yes.
And so for that, I say Mars is like the Thanos of the universe, and I love that.
Yeah, Mars is like the ocean of space.
Yes, it is like the ocean of space, where obviously it should not be explored, but somebody dumb enough / quote unquote smart enough is going to try to do it.
Yeah, I hope Elon goes up there and never comes back. I hope he lives a long life on Mars, separate from us, with his communication devices broken.
Absolutely.
Yes. Next question, Tribble. Imagine you're an astronaut and you're about to go on your very first space mission. What song are you listening to during takeoff?
Well, if I am an astronaut, something has gone terribly wrong, because I am terrified of space. And so because of that, I would probably say I'm listening to Shania Twain's I Feel Like a Woman on repeat. I'm not in my right mind, and that's going to keep me at a level that is truly insane. It will keep the insanity going.
That's a great one. I love some Shania Twain. That Don't Impress Me Much, I think, would also be a good choice. There's a line in there that's like, oh, okay, so you're a rocket scientist. That don't impress me much. Shania's good for this occasion in general.
Yes, Shania's good for every occasion.
Just a few more questions. Next is, would you rather be an M-type star burning low and slow, or an O-type star burning hot and fast?
Definitely an O-type. I might already be an O-type star. Hot and fast describes my dating life, to a T.
Good for you.
Almost perfectly.
Good for you. I'll take some of it if you ever find you have too much. They're also the most generous types of stars. It's the O stars that provide the heavy elements in the universe that, we are made of.
Oh, wow. And generosity is a trait of a Leo. So I could already be an O-type star. Wow.
I think you are.
I got to think about this.
Next question. What's something that's scarier than a black hole?
Scarier than a black hole, being attracted to men, I think. Being a straight woman is frightening for many, many, many reasons. Sometimes I'll see like a hard-bodied jock with a six-pack jogging with his shirt off, and I'll be like, that guy is hot. And I will get chills because it's terrifying to even have that thought run through my head. Spooky.
Oh, well, 'tis the season for it. Yeah. Look, as a bi person, I also think it's terrifying that, I am attracted to women, and yet there is a chance that I could end up dating a man.
Man, I will keep you in my thoughts. Hope it turns out okay.
Thank you.
But I hope for the best.
I'm also keeping my fingers crossed. This is just a 50-50. Moon or sun? No extra context provided.
Definitely sun. I'm a daytime person. I'm a summer baby. Leo, the sign is ruled by the sun. I love it is 75 degrees inside my apartment right now.
That's just where you keep it?
Yeah.
Like a crazy person.
Like a psycho.
Do you not sweat?
I'm sweating right now, and it's amazing. I mean, I love it. I feel like I'm on a beach, It makes me feel comfy and cozy. I feel closer to the sun. I love it.
Wow, I love that for you. You just absorb all of the golden rays.
Yeah, and I like to glisten. Sweat is good for that. A nice little shimmer, naturally.
Yes. Okay, we've reached our final question. You've done amazing on this exam where the answers aren't wrong or right. But the final question is, what constellation should we get rid of, and what should we replace it with?
I think we should get rid of Orion's belt. And I think we should replace it with a cluster of stars that we call Tribble.
Okay.
As an ode to Star Trek and the Trouble with Tribbles episode, and obviously me, I think.
Most importantly, you.
Yes,
Yeah.
I deserve to be immortalized in the stars.
Well, no, you've said it here on the Astronomy podcast, so it's going to become Astronomy Truth.
It is official.
That's how it
NASA,
works.
get with it.
All right. Well, excellent. I feel like I know you better. I feel like the listeners are going to know you better after that. And now we can get into the history of the Apollo program. Is there anything you want to know about Apollo by the end of this episode?
I want to know why they did it so many times, even after the first mission exploded into tiny bits. Were they not afraid? You know? What does it take? What does it take to scare astronauts to death?
Yeah, a lot more than just some fire, for sure. Okay, so you already know a little bit about the history. That's not going to be a surprise to you.
I know a little bit. I know quite a little.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, the listeners, there is a tragedy involved in the first Apollo mission, but I'm glad it's not going to be a surprise to Tribble. So the Apollo program ran from 1961 to 1972. It was a flower child of the new NASA administration, which had just turned into NASA in 1958. Before that, it was NACA, which was or NACA. It was like slightly different, and it didn't include space. It was only in 1958 that they really made NASA something in charge of space exploration.
What did the C stand for?
The C may have been like coalition or something. I don't remember if it was an actual word. Yeah. But they were mostly focused on like things in the atmosphere and flying stuff. And then space got added to their list of responsibilities.
Okay, that's interesting. I did not know that.
And apparently they never called it NACA. They only called it NACA.
NACA is not a cute word at all. So I'm glad that they said NACA. That sounds much better to me for some reason. Rolls off the tongue.
Agreed. It really does. So back when it was NACA in the 1950s, people started the space race. And both the U.S. and the Soviet Union were doing a lot. They were advancing technology to hit space milestones. And so in 1960, we really wanted to win the space race. And several people in the Dwight Eisenhower administration wanted to put Americans up in space, although they weren't thinking about going to the moon yet. So in July 1960, the NASA deputy administrator named Hugh Dryden announced the Apollo program. It didn't have the name yet, but he announced this program that eventually became Apollo. And its goal was to follow up the Mercury program. Have you heard of Mercury? Not the planet or the element.
Mercury program, it sounds familiar. I don't know the details, but I'm sure somebody said something about it before.
Yeah. People have talked about it. It was probably mentioned in Hidden Figures, actually, if you watched that.
Okay.
This was the United States' first mission to put a human in space. It ran from 1958 to 1963, and they succeeded with their first manned space flight in 1961 with Alan Shepard. Originally, Apollo was meant to extend our capabilities in space by letting us try out different things, like fitting more than just one person in the spacecraft and having separate spaces within the craft for different types of activities. And Apollo was supposed to do that right after Mercury. But in 1961, JFK addressed Congress, and he explicitly said that he wanted to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth by the end of the decade, giving them 8 years to achieve this massive milestone. And people rose to the challenge. And so it was then that the goal of Apollo became this lunar-focused mission. And that's one of the, I think, big confusions around Apollo is why it's a mission to the moon named after a god of the sun.
Oh, yeah. Because the 60s were insane. I am dedicated to believing that everybody was on LSD in the 60s, and they had no idea what was going on. Nobody's smart. There's a poem by Gil Scott-Heron that very efficiently describes this time, and it's called Whitey's on the Moon. And he's like, yeah, we don't got food to feed our kids, but Whitey on the moon. Because why are you thinking about going to the moon in 1961 when there's still Jim Crow laws? People are dirt poor. People can't vote. You know what I'm saying? Let's put somebody on the moon, though. Let's put all this stuff on the back burner. Go to the moon first. It's crazy.
Oh, you are not going to like the section I have about budget and how much all of this stuff cost. But yeah, it was a wild time. Like, America felt such a need to make themselves first, to put themselves first on the stage, but only in this superficial way. Yeah, you're right. So yes, people in the 60s were doing a lot of drugs. I don't know how many people at NASA were doing a lot of drugs, but it is named after a sun god because it was named before it was a lunar mission. So in 1960, a NASA manager named Abe Silverstein came up with the name Apollo. He was like chilling at home in his kitchen or something one night, and the idea just struck him magically. And it was the idea of Apollo riding in his chariot across the sky that gave Abe Silverstein this feeling of grandeur, and he was like, this should be the symbol of humanity's grand expanse beyond our atmosphere. So they named it Apollo, even though Artemis is a much, much better name.
Yeah, I think so. But I guess it's like the thing that people do even today on social media, where they say something with no facts to back it. They're just like, this is what I think it is. This is what it seems like. Let's say that. Good job, Abe.
Thanks, Abe. And so after JFK made his address, the goals of Apollo changed. And from then on, from 1961 on, the goals, there were 4 of them. The first one was to establish the technology to meet other national interests in space. So essentially just like catch up to and surpass Russia in the space race. The second goal was to achieve preeminence in space for the United States. So not just pass the Soviet Union right now, but make sure we stay ahead of them and everyone else forever. This was one of the founding purposes of NASA, to make the United States better at space than the rest of the world.
Yeah, that is how you stunt on your haters.
Yeah. Nah, we went to the moon. You didn't.
You gotta admire that. Yeah.
There's some schoolyard, ego boosting going on for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
The third goal was to carry out a program of scientific exploration of the moon. And then the fourth was to develop human capability to work in the lunar environment, because they knew that it would have different gravity, that the atmosphere is different, air pressure is much lower. So they wanted to see how people would actually do in that type of setting. They thought about how they could actually get people from the Earth to the moon. This was going to be the biggest project that anyone had ever worked on. And actually, when you look back at the amount of technology that advanced for the Apollo program specifically, it's the biggest and fastest leap in technology that any country has ever made in a time of peace, just for scientific exploration. And that to me is really nice. It's heartwarming. They learned a lot for this. So they had 3 different options for how to get people from the Earth to the moon. I'm going to give you the 3 options and see if you have an idea for what they would pick or if you know what they picked from history. The first option was to build a spacecraft in space, build a rocket in space and then send that to the moon from low Earth orbit. The second option was to build a rocket here on Earth and launch it to the moon, but then have a separate orbiter that landed on the moon and then went back to the orbiter. And then the third option was to just straight up launch a rocket from Earth to the moon and then have that rocket launch off of the moon to return. Those are 3 different options. What do you think they went with?
Okay, so option 1, they build the rocket in space. That sounds crazy. Couldn't put it past them. They thought of it. Maybe they did that. Launch it from an orbiter to the moon, then back to the orbiter, then from the orbiter back to Earth, I'm assuming, right? That's the one I think they picked. I don't know. Launching a rocket from the moon back to Earth also seems insane to me.
Yeah.
And it's a far way to go. Like, would it just drop at some point? I don't know. I think they picked the second one.
Yep, you are right. Your instincts are
Ooh,
very
genius.
good. They picked this at a meeting on July 11th, 1962, and that was mostly because they wanted to minimize the mass of the object landing on and taking off from the lunar surface. These big rockets that they are launching, I'm going to talk a little bit more about them later, but they weigh hundreds of thousands of pounds. And all together, like the thing could weigh 10 million pounds, and launching that off of Earth is expensive. Landing it on the moon is expensive, and then launching it again is just like unheard of. So they went with option 2.
For scale, is there anything else on Earth that weighs 10 million pounds?
Yeah, I would say that this rocket wasn't any heavier than like a skyscraper.
Okay, all right. A skyscraper flying through the sky.
Yes.
That's wild. How much
Yes.
do you know how much an airplane weighs? This is
I do
probably
not.
10, 20 times bigger than an airplane.
I can look it up. Airplane weight. Between 330,000 pounds to 500,000 pounds. These rockets and spacecraft together weigh way more than an airplane.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're big. And in space launches, the real money spender is mass, because the more weight you add, the more fuel you need to really launch something off of.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a lot. And so they had to design this very special type of rocket to launch it. There are a couple parts to this thing that left Earth. There's the Apollo spacecraft, and then there's the launch vehicle. So the launch vehicle is the rocket. They had to develop a new family of rockets called the Saturn family. There was Saturn 1, Saturn 1B, and Saturn 5. All of these rockets, like the weakest of these rockets, was capable of producing 1.5 million pounds worth of launch force. They were so powerful. They were actually developed by Dr. Werner von Braun, who was a Nazi, but then people just like let him work on the rockets after he did science for Nazi Germany, because space history is full of terrible people.
Yeah, it is. They were like, you know what? We're going to overlook that. We're kind of doing Nazism over here anyway.
They just turned their eye.
America. That is exactly correct.
Yes, very, very American. So that was the launch vehicle, the rocket that essentially exploded under the astronauts to lift them off of Earth. And then there was the actual Apollo spacecraft. It had 3 different parts. There was the command module, which is where the astronauts sat and where they like controlled everything, all of their little switches and buttons. And then there was the service module, where all of the support systems lived. And I guess there was also equipment there for their research or any sort of sample collection that they were going to do on the moon for the missions that got there. And then there was the lunar module, which was the separate part that was meant to take the astronauts from the lunar orbiter down to the surface of the moon and back. Altogether, the spacecraft itself was 80 feet tall and it weighed 50 tons, but when you added it to the launch vehicle, it could get up to 10 million pounds, depending on the payload. There were these 2 extra parts that they included in the whole system. There was something called the launch escape system, which was kind of a fail-safe in case there was an emergency. It was a very mini rocket that would launch the command module holding the astronauts away from the rest of the spacecraft if it exploded or caught on fire or something. So it would just like propel their little room away from the rest of the exploding thing. And then there was another part called the lunar module adapter that kind of cushioned the Apollo spacecraft part from the launch vehicle and also kind of insulated the lunar module. Those parts were meant to separate from the Apollo spacecraft. So by the time it reached the moon, the launch vehicle and these extra 2 parts, they were gone. And it was just like the lunar module and the command module.
So the escape vehicle is like that little vehicle on Armageddon when they realize they've got to leave someone behind to explode the asteroid. and one person gets away. Quite a visual.
Yes, it's like the escape pod. But 3 people get away,
Okay.
which is a little bit nicer.
Yeah, that's better. Wow.
Yeah, it was a real big thing. None of it got reused, ever. It was all single use. The command module was the only thing that ever returned from space, but it was still destroyed, so they had to build a new one every single time they launched an Apollo mission.
So there's also like space littering. How do they get rid of it? Or does it just stay in orbit?
Oh, yeah, I don't have good news for you. There are tens of thousands of pieces of human-made space junk just floating around Earth. We have no plan to do anything with it.
Oh my God. This is a new thing to be frightened of today.
Yeah.
Human-made space junk falling to Earth at some point.
It is not going to be a danger in that way because all of it is so small that if it does re-enter the atmosphere, which is not guaranteed, but if it does, it's small enough that it will break up and burn up in the atmosphere before it reaches the ground.
Oh, okay. Smart. All right.
Yeah, all of the parts that break off of a spacecraft, they are small enough to not be that much of a danger. But, if you've ever seen like the movie Gravity or something, or if you remember from 2018 when the Chinese space agency had an uncontrolled return of their Tiangong space station, sometimes bigger pieces like whole space stations or satellites, they can fall, but they are usually very, very controlled.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yay. The more you know.
Anxiety, panic attack, aborted. Yeah.
That is the purpose of this show. Yeah. Hi everyone. Tribble went to go take a cold plunge, so I figured I'd share some messages with you. The first, in response to what happened last week, I want you all to know that Pale Blue Pod will continue to be a show that values and prioritizes science, truth, and empathy. This show and me, we are a safe space for people who are feeling vulnerable and hurt right now. This podcast is for people who believe in science, who support independent shows, who are the best stars that I know of. This show is for the patrons, so thank you so much if you support the show financially every single month. I could not make the show without you. Thank you especially to our Sun-like stars, Scott Reynolds, Augustin, and Tom T. You're golden. Thank you so much. Remember, patrons get to hear their name on the show and get research notes for almost every single episode just by supporting us on Patreon for about $1 per episode. You can even sign up for an annual membership, and if you do that, you end up getting a 13% discount across an entire year. That is 1 percentage point for every constellation in the ecliptic path. You can find our merch, which I'm now selling, and Patreon info and more at palebluepod.com. But if you already know you want to support us financially, please head on over to patreon.com/palebluepod. And if that's not something you can do right now, that's totally fine. We love you and you are very much still space. You can support us by reviewing the show on whatever app you use and by sharing a link to a specific episode of the show with your friends, because word of mouth is a very powerful way to help a show grow. All right, next I have a game recommendation. Are you ready to explore distant galaxies? Well, Catan Starfarers brings the excitement of space exploration right to your tabletop. In this interstellar adventure, you'll build fleets, you'll explore new planets, and trade with alien species. Whether you're fascinated by astronomy, and if you're listening to this show, I think you are, or enjoy an excellent science fiction adventure, Catan Starfarers lets you experience the thrill of exploring the galaxy in a whole new way. For a limited time, you can visit catanshop.com and use the coupon code PALEBLUE to get a 10% discount on Catan Starfarers before they're all gone. Again, go to catanshop.com, that's CATAN shop.com, and use the code PALEBLUE for a 10% discount. Okay, I also have a podcast recommendation for you, another show in the Multitude Collective. This one is Big Game Hunger. Big Game Hunger is a weekly comedy show where Jenna Stieber and friends craft the next big video game every single episode. Starting with a randomly generated genre, concept, and vibe, Jenna and a variety of funny and game-obsessed guests will take these ideas far enough that they can pitch it to a shadowy board of rich investors. And by the end of the episode, they will have honed an IP so irresistible that you would totally be willing to spend $25 for it on Steam. Get ready to laugh about games you love, learn about new game trends, and yearn for titles that will surely, unfortunately, never make their release date. New episodes of Big Game Hunger come out every Monday, the same days as Pale Blue Pod, so check it out by searching for Big Game Hunger in your favorite podcast app. All right, that's all the messages from me, and Tribble is back shivering, so let's get her warmed up and then we'll get back to the episode. Okay, so they had a bunch of missions in this program. There were 11 crewed missions. That means that they were manned. All of the astronauts who went in the Apollo missions were men. But I'll say crewed, just because. And so there were 11 crewed missions. 6 of them put people on the moon, and then there were other missions that didn't have any people on them, but they were like test flights or whatever. The first of these was Apollo 1. It started with a tragedy, and we mentioned this up top, but it was on January 27th of 1967 that this tragedy happened. A fire broke out in the command module where the 3 astronauts were. They were about to do not even an actual launch. They were just doing a launch simulation, so like a test run. And a small fire broke out in the command module, but the air in the module was almost 100% oxygen. So that small fire ballooned very quickly and unfortunately killed all 3 of them, which is a horrible way to go.
Oh, terrible.
Terrible. Yeah, it originally actually wasn't supposed to be called the Apollo 1 mission, but they kind of retconned it to call it Apollo 1 after the tragedy, but it was originally a test flight. So that's where Apollo starts. It does get much better from there. There were a lot of successes. I think if they had had like 2 or 3 tragedies, Tribble, they would have been like, no, this is cursed. Like even the hardcore scientists at NASA would have been like, nope, this Apollo is cursed. We're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
But because everything after that was such a success, they kept going with the program.
Yeah, because it only takes one tragedy for me to be like, nah, I'm never doing that. You know, There's a story about some Tylenol getting contaminated with arsenic, or what's the other one?
Cyanide?
Cyanide, exactly. And, I don't buy Tylenol capsules.
That's wise.
Never. That happened one time, long time ago. I don't trust it. Anytime there's a package even slightly open, nah, I can't eat it because there could be cyanide, because once there was. So shout out to the NASA astronauts who were like, this could kill me, but I'm going to do it. Absolutely not.
They get a very special type of person to sign up for these astronaut missions. And yeah, they're like, oh, I might die, for man and country, or whatever people like that say.
Yeah, like,
you're right.
I guess I would assume most of these astronauts are white men.
All of the ones
who
here,
fear
yes.
nothing. Yeah, they fear nothing. So I could see that being easy for them to be like, yeah, well, good for you guys. I strive to have that type of bravery.
Yeah, well, NASA learns slower than you do. So they gave it several tries. The next 5 Apollo missions were uncrewed, so people don't really talk about them. And then the next mission that people talk about is Apollo 7. So we jump from 1 to 7. And this was the first crewed and launched Apollo mission. It launched on, I think this is before National Coming Out Day was a thing, but on October 11th, 1968.
This actually sparked the coming out day.
They were like, look at them. They're coming out of the atmosphere. I'm coming out of the closet, baby. It's time.
Yes, the gays love elaborate details. Like, what more to base coming out day off of than a rocket launch? Go gays. I'm putting that in Wikipedia right after this.
Good. People should know the connection that is very real and not at all a headcanon of ours.
At all.
All of these Apollo missions, they had 3 astronauts on them. I did not write down the names of all of them because I'm bad at pronouncing names and because who's going to remember them, really? That's not why people are listening to the show. So I did write down like a special milestone that each mission gave us. So the milestone that Apollo 7 gave us was that it was the first TV program from an American spacecraft because they live streamed part of their journey. They were up there for 11 days in orbit around the Earth, and they live streamed part of it, and all 3 of the astronauts got really bad colds while they were up in space, but they stayed there for the 11 days, and then they came home and probably whined a lot to their wives about it.
Oh my God, I can only imagine. One, how do you get a cold in space? And
right?
Yeah, I mean, I get really sneezy on an airplane and it's terrible and it lasts like a whole 24 hours after I'm off the plane. So maybe that's what it was. But 2, this was also back when there's like 3 channels, you know, there's really nothing else to watch. People were sitting down 11 days in a row watching this.
Yes.
With their TV dinners on black and white televisions. And nobody, in some houses, no one was allowed to speak while they were watching this, you know? And the astronauts are probably not talking much either.
No. In some houses, a kid had to hold the antenna in the right position so that they could continue watching the stream.
Exactly. If you have a father that is strict, who is alive in 1960, what was this, 63?
68.
68? It's probably based on this. He was holding the antenna. You got to give him some grace, man. He's seen some shit, done things in his life.
He sure has. He sure has. And so even though all 3 of them got sick, again, NASA didn't learn the lesson. And they were like, well, it's probably not going to happen the next time. Or we'll just give them Tylenol. It doesn't have the cyanide in it yet. And so they go on to Apollo 8, which was the first time that one of the Saturn V rockets was used for a crewed launch. And the Saturn V was the really powerful rocket that the Nazi developed. So for Apollo 8, the mission was the first that went to the moon. They didn't land on it, but they orbited the moon for 20 hours.
Oh my
God. Long time.
Did they get, like, how long does it take to get all the way around the moon? How much of that was just them trying to get around it?
They went around several times. The ISS goes around the Earth every 90 minutes. And the moon is much smaller than the Earth. So I would say that they got to go around the moon a good 10 more times, probably.
Wow. And I imagine they're like studying what it is. Maybe somebody was writing the song When a Moon Hits Your Eye Like a Big Pizza Pie. I think somebody wrote that while they were doing that.
They did. Yeah, it was written in space.
Wow. They definitely had dabs of acid on that space station.
I hope
There's no way.
I hope so.
There's no way.
I would want to drop acid in space but that would make going to space worth it for me, actually. I don't want to go.
That might be the one thing, yeah.
I would go if I could trip in space. They were there over Christmas, so I think they did like a little Christmas stream.
Oh my God.
They sang like some Christmas song, some hymn, and then they took, you know, that iconic photo of the Earth rising in the distance from behind the moon, the Earthrise photo? They took that on this mission.
Oh, wow. Artistic.
Do you have any idea how long it takes to get to the moon from here? If you had to guess.
Let's say 22 hours.
Oh, okay. About 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 3 days there. They orbited for 20 hours, 3 days back. So it's a decent trip. It's 250,000 miles away.
Wow. That's like driving from Atlanta to San Francisco.
Like
3 days.
1,000 times. Oh, 3 days, yes, yeah. I thought you were talking about the distance. Yeah, it's a long trip. And I don't know if they like get music or audiobooks or anything.
No, they definitely didn't have audiobooks.
No.
And I would imagine, I mean, now they've probably got like an iPod in a rocket.
So.
But then they didn't have like a record player or an 8-track. I don't know what they were listening to back then.
Yeah. No, I imagine the pickings were pretty slim. They just had each other's company. Just 3 dudes in a small can together.
Not just 3 dudes, but 3 nerds. too. Like the nerdiest of nerds that you could ever even
Back then,
know.
a lot of them were coming from the military. So it was like
The military,
three jock bros in a small tin can.
Even worse. And they were televising this?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It would be like watching a marathon of Love Island. Probably. I've never watched Love Island. Sorry if you watch Love Island.
I actually love Love
like
Island with my whole heart, but I get it. It's like a ridiculous premise, easy to make fun of.
Yeah, three hot guys that have nothing going on in their heads.
Yeah.
Watching them on TV, I don't know.
But people did. People tuned in. There wasn't a lot of competition. So
No, there was literally nothing on TV.
nothing else. There was nothing else. Then, so each mission after that, and the reason there were so many missions is because they were really doing every new step one at a time. So after they orbited the moon, they decided to just try out the lunar module, but they kept it in orbit around Earth. So they were in Earth orbit for Apollo 9, but they tried out the lunar module, and one of the astronauts flew the lunar module outside of the spacecraft for 6 hours, just like on its own. So they were like, okay, this works. It can get from the orbiter to the lunar surface. And then in the next mission, in Apollo 10, they took it from Earth's orbit to the moon's orbit. So they didn't actually land on the moon. They got about 10 miles away from the surface of the moon, but they just orbited it in the lunar module. And then they came home. And it was finally Apollo 11 on July 20th, 1969, that we finally put humans on the moon.
Yes. The greatest day of history.
If they had just done it in like April, imagine an April 20th, 1969 moon landing would have been so perfect, but we can't always get what we want. I have the flight path for this mission. I'm going to share my screen, and then I would love for you to describe the flight path to the people.
Oh, wow.
So this is the path that they took. It starts over here. They start on Earth, and then they go to the moon. So would you like to describe what you're seeing?
The flight path looks exactly like a penis. Like one you would draw on someone's face after they fell asleep first at a sleepover. It has two, what looks like testicles at the bottom, which are swirling orbits around the Earth.
Well, the two are the moon. Yeah.
Okay, those are the moon. And then it goes up, and that's around the Earth, or is that the moon? At the tip.
Yeah, the tip is the Earth.
The tip, it's not just like a rounded tip, but it also has what looks like a huge urethra. This is an anatomically correct penis that they flew. This is the flight path. And this tells me a lot about the jocks, the bros, the cute dumbs that were on this mission.
I thought it would.
Now, this would be the thing that gets me interested in space. Can we draw penises in our space work? Let's do that 100%.
Yeah, they posted this.
The conservatism of people in the 60s, oh my God, they were probably appalled. This is the devil's work at this point. Christian conservative groups were like, we got to get rid of NASA. They are disgusting. They are polluting our children's minds. This flight path would drive Ron DeSantis insane if it happened today. He would be like, no space books in schools. We cannot pollute our children's minds with dicks. This is insane. I can't believe they let this happen.
This is an official poster. This is an official NASA-sanctioned flight path poster that they put in classrooms, that they put on the news.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would do this. I would be the person that drew this flight path. This is exactly the career that I would want to have at NASA. I would want this to be my legacy at NASA. I made a flight path that looks exactly like a penis, and I made posters that are hanging in public spaces.
Yeah, you can see when you zoom in, it says NASA HQ, flight path 69, and then it has the date, July 11th, 1969.
69.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it gets so deep. I didn't even know that 69 was a thing back then. Did they call it 69? They're like, this is one half of the 69 that we're looking at. Like, where's the vagina? There's definitely a second part to this flight path that maybe we haven't seen yet. And it is a vagina. I know it.
It's probably like their path of where to land on the moon, like which specific crater to look for.
That's exactly
Although,
correct.
Do we really think that any of them, the men at NASA headquarters, would have really known what a vagina looked like?
Oh, you're right.
Because even if they've interacted, I don't think they've studied. I don't think they've looked at the textbooks.
No.
If they existed back then.
In 1969,
yeah, they just knew how to draw dicks.
People were exclusively having sex in the dark, too. Like, all lights off, blinds closed, blackout curtains, darkness. So they definitely didn't know what a vagina looked like. But the penis is sufficient. That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah. I'm so glad I got that reaction on camera, because you don't expect that from NASA if you don't know NASA well.
Yes, you don't.
They're weird. They're freaks.
Oh my God. The freakiest of the freaks.
So after Apollo 11, we went back to the moon 5 different times in the Apollo program, and most of those times we were collecting samples of rocks, and it's actually not called dirt, but it's called regolith, that like powdery dirt-like substance on the surface of the moon. And they collected hundreds of pounds of samples between Apollo 11 and Apollo 17, which was the last mission. And yeah, mostly they were just collecting samples. They would do like a small milestone of spending a long time on the lunar surface. So in Apollo 15, someone spent 18 hours straight on the moon. They drove a car around the lunar surface. It was on that 15 mission that one of the astronauts dropped both a hammer and a feather at the same time to see if they would hit the ground at the same time. And they did, because Newton was right.
Oh my God.
And in the absence of air resistance, it doesn't matter how much you weigh. You're going to fall at the acceleration due to gravity.
Wow. Newton didn't even have to go to the moon to know that. What a guy, that Isaac.
You know, the Leaning Tower of Pisa thing is probably a myth. It was more of like a thought experiment that he did instead of dropping things.
What is the Leaning Tower of Pisa?
Actually, it may have been Galileo. I often get them confused, but Galileo is famous for having done this experiment where he dropped 2 objects from the top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa and saw if they hit the ground at the same time. But it was actually just a thought experiment that he did. He did not drop anything off of the tower.
Oh, wow. Oh, smartest guy in the world. I had to actually paint this wall to know what it looks like. I couldn't for the life of me imagine what the color would look like in my head. So for him to be able to like imagine these 2 things hitting the floor at the same, a genius. Brain is just
genius.
Doing the most. Yeah. What a guy.
So we're at the funding part. I will encourage you to take a deep breath, I think, before I tell you how much they spent on this whole program.
Okay.
So in 1973 money, because the program ended in 1972, by then they had spent $26 billion of 1973 money, which is about 250 billion today monies.
My God. A drop in the bucket. And I'm just asking the United States for about $60K to pay off my student loans. They can't even do that. Give me a moon rock, at least.
Yeah, they collected hundreds of pounds. They can give it out.
I could sell that on eBay
to people
and have my loans paid off ASAP. Just give me a moon rock if you can't give me the money. $250 billion?
Yes, over 11 years.
Whitey's on the moon. That's what he said. God damn.
Yeah, this was NASA's most expensive time in history. Their budget steadily increased from 0.1% of the federal budget in 1958 to its peak in 1966 with 4.4% of the federal budget. Wow. And that was equivalent to about $55 billion of 2023 money, just from 1 year. Wow. And then kind of immediately after we landed people on the moon, we started underfunding NASA and cutting their budget. And these days, it is less than half of 1% of the federal budget. It hasn't been higher than that in like over a decade.
Wow. Well, there's nothing else in space to explore, I guess. The moon is
We've done
kind
it
of all we
all.
wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah. But that money didn't all just like disappear into the ether. New centers were built to build these spacecraft and house them before they were launched. Thousands of contracts with construction and engineering companies and universities were signed, and 400,000 employees were hired over the decade to work on the Apollo program. So
wow,
they did a lot. They've stimulated things, and like I said before, a huge leap in technological advancement and scientific advancement. We know things now thanks to the Apollo program, like how the moon formed. We didn't know that before them. There were ideas, but their samples that they brought back from the moon really solidified which of the ideas it was. And so now we know that the moon used to be a part of the Earth, and that the material that makes up the moon was hit off of the Earth by some other object. And we know that because the material that makes up the moon is essentially what makes up the surface of the Earth, except for one key difference, and that's that there are slight chemical traces that all of that stuff was burnt a long time ago, that it got really, really hot and created these chemical tracers on the moon rocks that we don't see here on Earth. And so that tells us what happened in the past. Very exciting.
Oh my God, that is exciting.
Isn't it? They also left stuff on the moon. They left scientific instruments on the moon. One of them was a seismometer, so that let us measure the moonquakes. We learned that there are moonquakes and that there's seismic activity in the moon, not because of plate tectonics, but because of meteors hitting the moon and because of temperature changes. Like as the moon cools down, it's shrinking a little bit, and that's creating these moonquakes. Also, gravitational interactions with the Earth are creating these quakes on the moon, and we can measure them with our seismometer that we left there. We also left a mirror on the moon, which doesn't sound very high tech, but when we shine a laser light at that mirror on the moon, we can accurately measure how far away the moon is from us. And we've been doing this since like 1970, and we've noticed that the moon is moving away from us by an inch and a half every single year.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have known that without this little mirror.
Even the moon doesn't want to be associated with humans on Earth. The moon is like, just doing my job.
Yeah, the moon is doing that Homer Simpson meme in real time where he backs up into the bushes.
Until he gets to the abyss of the universe. Jeez, moon.
Yes.
We appreciate you, moon.
We do. While you're here, we love you to death. Did anything surprise you about the program?
Surprising is the step-by-step missions. I didn't know that is what the missions were for. I always kind of just assumed that every mission was a failure until Apollo 11, and then they tried and tried again. Because after the first failure, I had zero faith in NASA. I was like, they killed so many people doing this. I'm surprised only 3 people died doing this, honestly.
Yeah.
That seems like a feat in itself.
Mm-hmm. Because it was contained to their command module. I don't think the rest of it was damaged.
Yeah, but amongst all of the 18 missions, only 3 casualties. That's surprising to me. It is also surprising that the moon, I didn't know how the moon was formed.
It's called the giant impact hypothesis, and the thing that crashed into the Earth, we've named it Theia, after a figure from Greek mythology.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like Thea. That sounds like a strong woman's name.
It does, and it is.
Okay, yeah, that's crazy. And I'm like, if the Earth is supposed to be perfectly round, what is this material that got knocked off? And did the Earth like fill that space in with water or what?
Yeah, so it would have happened very early on when the Earth hadn't quite solidified yet. So things were still kind of molten. And after the chunk got knocked off, it kind of formed into its current shape.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Because the Earth wasn't always Earth-like. It took a long time for it to grow organisms and things, which gives me hope. Gives me hope for the rest of the universe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, here on Earth, it took like 1 billion years for life to form after the planet had kind of settled into its shape. But it took the planet, on average, it takes planets like 10 million years to really form. So it was a very slow process.
Wow, that's amazing. The Earth is quite a wonder. It makes me think that the other planets are either failed Earths or Earths to come, you know? I guess we'll see if we're here.
Venus potentially could be an Earth to come. Mars, some people say that it may have been a failed Earth, like long time ago. It would have been more habitable.
Yeah.
People say that about Mars and Venus, but yeah, mostly it's just that the planets are formed in really different environments, even though they're all in our solar system. The further you get away from the sun, like weird things happen. So they were formed, the Jupiters and the Neptunes, they were formed in such different environments from the Earth that they never did and they never will look like us. They don't have the right ingredients.
They don't got the right stuff.
No.
Damn.
Yeah, but we will never be them. Like sometimes I feel like Earth maybe wishes it could be a gas giant sometimes.
Yeah, I think so too. Honestly, I don't know what Earth is trying to be or humans are trying to make Earth into, but it seems like something totally different than what it is right now.
Yeah.
Good luck, Earth. You'll never succeed.
Good luck, Earth, and good luck, Earthlings. I would like to see us be all right, I guess. But speaking of all right, Tribble, are you all right? How you feeling? And where can people find you online?
I'm feeling so much smarter than I felt coming into this. And to be honest, I often feel like a genius.
Good.
So I feel even smarter, which is probably dangerous for the rest of society. And you can find me online. I'm on Instagram mostly, but I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. At Tribbz the Cool. It's TRIBBZ the Cool. And that's also my website, tribbsthecool.com.
That is down in the show notes, so you can follow the links to get to Tribble's pages, listeners.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for talking about Apollo with me, for bringing me to this spa. Do they do massages here?
They do. And something they also do is body scrubs. You can get a nice, hopefully, lady to scrub you down and get all of the dead skin off of your body, which is immaculate. You must try it. Yeah.
I want to go do that right now. So let's go do that and get away from the people around us who I think were a little bit traumatized by the penis as flight path conversation.
That was the best part.
I agree. It's not our fault that they have bad taste or bad senses of humor. But, you know, listeners, no matter how much dead skin you have on your body, you're still space.
Yes.
Pale Blue Pod is hosted by me, Dr. Moiya McTier, a.k.a. the universe's bestie. I created the show with original co-host Corinne Caputo, a comedienne extraordinaire, and help from the Multitude Productions team. Our theme music is by Evan Johnston, and our cover art is by Shay McMullen, and our audio editing is handled by the incomparable Misha Stanton. I am Go Astro Mo everywhere online, and you can stay in touch with the show and the universe by following Pale Blue Pod on Instagram or checking out our website, palebluepod.com. We are a member of Multitude, an independent podcast collective and production studio. So if you like Pale Blue Pod, you will love the other shows that live at multitude.productions. And if you want a shout out on the show and research notes for every episode, you can join our community over at patreon.com/palebluepod for just about $1 per episode. Thank you so much for listening to Pale Blue Pod. I'll be back next week. Bye.